David was an ordinary man. He worked at a small car garage in the city. Every day was the same. He fixed engines, changed tires, and listened to loud music while drinking coffee. Nothing strange ever happened in his life. But that changed one rainy night. David sat alone in his apartment. The rain hit the windows. The TV was on, but he wasn't really watching. His phone vibrated on the table. A message had come in. He looked at it. No number. No contact name. Just one strange word at the top. Incoming. He opened the message. His heart skipped a beat. It was a picture. A picture of a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, with large, glowing blue eyes. The child's skin was pale, almost silver. But the most shocking thing, the child looked exactly like David. Same nose, same eyes, same small scar on the left eyebrow. David's hands trembled. He zoomed in on the photo. It wasn't edited. It looked real. Below the picture, there was one line of text. He's the one. He is your real father. What the hell? David whispered. He laughed nervously. This is some kind of joke, right? But deep inside, something felt wrong. Or maybe, to right. His phone screen blinked. Then it glitched. Strange symbols appeared, flashing for a few seconds. Symbols he didn't recognize. Like glowing alien letters. Suddenly, the lights in the apartment flickered. For a second, everything went dark. Then slowly, the lights came back. David stood up. His heart was pounding. He walked to the window and looked outside. No one was there. Just rain, cars, and a dog barking in the distance. But something was off. He could feel it. He turned around and froze. There were markings on his living room wall, glowing softly, like someone had burned them into the paint. He didn't hear anything. No footsteps, no voices, nothing. And then, someone knocked on the door. 3 soft knocks. David's breath caught in his throat. He slowly walked to the door and opened it. No one was there. Only a strange floating device, like a small silver orb. It hovered in the air, humming softly. Then, it scanned David's face with a blue light. He stumbled back. The orb clicked. And a hologram appeared in the air. It was a woman, not human. Her skin was smooth and silver. Her eyes large and full of sadness. She looked directly at him. David, she said, her voice calm but full of pain. They found us. David stared, speechless. You don't remember me, she continued. But I remember you. You promised to protect him. David opened his mouth, but no words came. The woman touched something in the air, and a new image appeared. The child again, smiling, standing in front of a tall blue sky with 2 suns. He is your son, she said. And he's in danger. David shook his head. This can't be real. I've never been to wherever this is. The hologram flickered. You don't remember, because you chose to forget. To keep him safe. David stepped back. Who are you? She looked at him one last time. My name is Lyra. I'm not from your world. But our child carries your blood, and your fire. They are coming for him. You must decide. Will you run, or will you remember who you are? The orb made a soft chime sound, then disappeared, vanishing into the air like smoke. David stood there in silence. The markings on the wall faded. Away. Everything was quiet again. But nothing would ever be normal. That night, David couldn't sleep. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the phone. He looked at the child's picture again. Something deep inside him stirred. Memories. No, not yet. But a feeling. Something ancient. Something real. In the corner of his room, the shadows moved slightly, and for a moment he thought he saw a shape. A small figure watching him with glowing blue eyes. The same eyes from the picture. Then, nothing. Just silence. But David knew one thing for sure. Now his life was no longer just about fixing cars. It was about a child from another world. A child who called him father. And something or someone was coming next. It had been 3 days since David saw the picture. 3 days since a strange message told him he was the father of an alien child. He hadn't told anyone. Not his friends. Not even the police. Because what could he say? Hi, a silver alien woman sent me a message through a floating ball and told me I have a child on another planet. They'd think he was crazy. Maybe he was. But every night since then, he had dreams. Not dreams from his own life. Dreams from somewhere else. He saw blue skies with 2 suns, flying machines that looked like giant fish, and a voice calling to him, remember who you are. Tonight, the dream changed. He was running through a burning city, holding a child's hand, explosions in the sky, and a scream behind him. Lyra's scream. He woke up in sweat, breathing hard. Then he saw it. A light outside his window, not a streetlight, not a helicopter, something floating, something watching. He stood and walked to the window slowly, his heart beat louder with each step. Outside, above the buildings, a shape, smooth, silver, not human, and then vanished. David backed away from the window. He grabbed his phone, turned on all the lights. But one light didn't turn on the bathroom. He opened the door carefully, and saw the orb. The same one from before. But this time, it was cracked. Sparking something had attacked it. It projected one last weak hologram before dying. Lyra's face appeared again. But this time, she was afraid. David, he's coming. He found you. Don't trust FCZZZ. The hologram cut out. The orb dropped to the floor, lifeless. And then, someone knocked. David stared at the door. One knock, then another. 3 slow knocks. Exactly like last time. He stepped back, grabbed a wrench from the kitchen, and opened the door in one quick motion. No one was there. Only a shadow in the alley. Tall, still, and not human. Then, it stepped into the light. It looked like a man. But his skin was dull gray. His eyes were pitch black, and metal wires wrapped around his arms. He spoke in a low voice. You are David. It wasn't a question. It was a fact. David said nothing. The man stepped closer. You are needed. You will come. David raised the wrench. Who are you? The figure didn't answer. Instead, it held out a hand. A small flash. And suddenly, David felt pain in his head. He dropped to his knees. Visions came fast. A battlefield on a different planet. Ships falling from the sky. David standing tall in alien armor. Lyra crying, a child holding his hand. Then, darkness. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't in his apartment. He was in a white room. The walls were smooth and glowing. There were no doors. He stood up slowly. Was he on a ship? Suddenly, a door opened in the wall. A figure walked in. But not the gray man, it was someone else. She looked human, but her eyes were pure white. Her hair floated like it was underwater. David, she said kindly. Welcome back. He stepped back. Where am I? She smiled. A safe place. For now, who are you? David asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she waved her hand, and a window opened in the wall. Outside was Earth, tiny, blue, floating in black space. They were in orbit. David's legs went weak. You are not supposed to remember, she whispered. But now that you do, others will come. David's voice shook. What do they want? She looked at him, and for a moment, her face seemed sad. They want the child, and if they can't take him alive, they will destroy him. David stood in silence. Why me? He asked. She answered with just one word. Because he chose you. The wall opened again. This time, a small boy stood on the other side. Big blue eyes. Same face as David. The boy stared at him. Scared, but curious. The woman bent down and said softly, Go on. Say it. The boy stepped forward, looked up, and said, Dad. David's heart broke in that moment. He didn't know what was real anymore. But he knew one thing. He had to protect this boy. But as he reached for him, the ship shook. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The woman turned to him, her face now serious. They're here. Cut to black. Sometimes the past doesn't return as memories. Sometimes, it returns as a feeling. As David stood on the alien ship, looking into the eyes of a child who called him Dad, he didn't feel fear. He felt familiarity. The boy smiled nervously, holding a small object in his hand, a glowing cube. He held it up. It floated between them. And then, it unlocked. Images filled the room. Not screens. Not holograms. Memories, but not just the boy's. David's. He saw himself standing on a mountaintop, under 2 suns, wearing armor that wasn't made on Earth. Beside him stood Lyra, looking younger and happy. She took his hand. She was pregnant. David's voice echoed from the memory. If anything happens, wipe me. Erase everything. Even my name. David gasped and pulled back. The images stopped. He looked at the woman with white eyes. She stood calmly near the window. What did I just see? He asked. She walked slowly toward him. The truth, or at least, the part you gave up. She pointed to the cube. That is a key. 1 of 3. It holds your past. David picked up the cube again. It felt warm, alive. He turned to her. Why would I erase my own memory? She replied softly. To protect the child. And her, Lyra, David asked. She nodded. You and Lyra were part of something big. A peace project. humans and Elysians, working together to stop a war. But there were those who didn't want peace. They wanted a weapon. And that weapon was you. David laughed bitterly. I'm a mechanic. I fix old cars. She tilted her head. You fixed more than that. She waved her hand. Another image appeared. David, fighting off soldiers on an alien battlefield. Shielding Lyra. Getting shot. Bleeding then. Silence. His voice echoed again in the memory. Erase me. Send me to Earth. Hide him. Hide my son. David turned to the child. The boy looked up at him, his eyes wide. Do you remember me? He asked softly. David knelt down. No, he said honestly. But something inside me does. The boy nodded. I dreamed of you. Every night. Suddenly the ship shook. Warning lights flashed again. But this time, there were no sirens. The woman turned sharply. Someone just entered orbit. Not ours. David asked. The ones looking for the boy. She nodded. The ones who turned on you. And Lyra. David stood. Where's Lyra now? The woman's face turned sad. Hiding. Far from here. She was supposed to meet you after the memory return. But what? He asked. She's being hunted too. David clenched his fists. I need to see her, he said. You will, the woman replied. But first, you must remember everything. David looked at the cube. He knew the truth was inside, but he was afraid. Afraid of who he used to be. Afraid of what he might become again. The boy touched his hand. You're still good, he whispered. I know it. David smiled. Then let's find out. He placed the cube on his forehead. A sharp pulse hit his brain. And suddenly, the room disappeared. He was back. Back in the war. Back in the fire. He saw everything now. The betrayal. The promise to Lyra. The child, born in secret. The escape to Earth. The last goodbye. He woke up on a hospital table. Back then, a scientist said, you'll remember only what we allow. Earth will be your prison, but it will be peaceful. David had agreed, and now the peace was over. He opened his eyes. Back in the ship, back in orbit. The woman stood beside him. You remember? David nodded slowly. Yes, she looked at him. Then take this, she said. She gave him a ring. Smooth, black, glowing red inside. It will guide you to Lyra. And it will tell the others. The weapon is awake. David put the ring on. It fit perfectly. The boy held his hand tightly. David looked out the window, at the stars. Let's go find your mother, he whispered. And far below them, Earth kept spinning, unaware that a forgotten warrior had just awakened. For centuries, the moon watched over Earth like a silent guardian. But tonight, the moon wasn't alone. A shape hovered beside it. Massive, black, and pulsing like a heartbeat. Silent to the world below. Only one person knew it had arrived. David, far above Earth. In the Elysian scout ship, David stood by the window. His son beside him both stared at the dark object, now eclipsing part of the moon. What is that? The boy asked. David didn't speak. He recognized the shape. He'd seen it in a memory. That is a hunter ship, he said quietly. Behind them, the white-eyed woman stepped forward. They found you faster than expected. I thought this was a safe zone, David replied. It was until you remembered who you are. Suddenly, alarms began to blink red. Not loud, just a soft pulse. The woman stared at the dashboard. They're scanning the ship. They're not here to negotiate. They're here to retrieve. David clenched his fists. They want the boy. No, she replied. They want you both. David looked at his son. The child was holding the glowing cube again, his fingers shaking. Dad, will they take me? David knelt, placing both hands on the boy's shoulders. No one is taking you anywhere. Just then, the ship jolted. Something had hit it. David turned to the woman. Get us out of here. But she didn't move. She stared forward, eyes narrowed. Too late. One of them is already inside. A sound echoed through the corridor like metal dragging. Across stone, David stepped between the door and the boy. The woman handed him a small device. This unlocks a memory field. If you're captured, use it. It will shut your mind down before they take control. You're giving me a kill switch, David asked. I'm giving you a choice. Suddenly, the door slid open. A tall figure stepped in. Its face was hidden under a mask of glass. Its skin flickered like fire beneath armor. It raised a hand. The woman moved first, pushing David and the boy into a side chamber. Go. The door shut behind them. Inside the chamber, David looked around. What is this room? The boy pointed to the walls. They were covered in strange writing, glowing softly. David stepped closer. The letters. They responded to his presence. They lit up, rearranged. Then the wall opened, revealing a small craft, a two-seater escape pod. David looked at his son. You ever flown a ship? No, me neither. Let's make it up together. They got in. Dot had touched the controls. The ring on his finger pulsed, and the pod responded. Destination locked, said a robotic voice. Ilishanvika, leader. The ship blasted out just as the main vessel shook violently. Behind them, the woman fought the hunter alone. David looked back. I'll come back for her, he said. I know, the boy whispered. As the pod entered Earth's atmosphere, David looked down, but something else looked back. In the sky above them, 3 more hunter ships, spreading like a virus, one directly above the White House. They're already here, David said. What do we do now? The boy asked. David stared ahead. We find your mother. Then we make them wish they'd never come. Down on Earth, in a secret underground room, military generals watched the sky on radar, blips, unreadable signals. Movement without noise. One general picked up a phone. Sir, we have unidentifieds over Washington, Tokyo, and Nairobi. The man on the other end asked one question. Have they made contact? The general paused. No, sir. But someone from inside their ship just escaped and entered Earth. He's not one of them. Then who is he? The general stared at the screen. We don't know, but he looks human. Back in the escape pod, David looked at the boy. They're going to come for us. They already are. The boy replied. Suddenly the ship's screen blinked. A new message appeared. Not from Earth. Not from the hunters, from Lyra. Her voice came through weak, but clear. David, I'm hiding in Sector 9. They have my location. I can't protect the boy anymore. I can't even protect myself. If you still remember me, follow the beacon. The message ended. David tightened his grip on the controls. Hold on, kid. We're going in hot. And from space, one of the hunter ships turned sharply. Tracking them following Earth was no longer safe. There are moments in life when everything freezes. Not time, not space, but choice. And David was now inside that moment. The escape pod had crashed in the mountains, cold, broken, but still hidden from view. Snow covered the wreckage. The air was thin, but David was alive. So was the boy. And in his hand was Lyra's beacon. Faint, flickering, almost dead. She's close, David said. How close? The boy asked. Too close to danger, David answered. Inside a small cave nearby, they lit a fire. David wrapped the boy in a heat blanket. The wind howled outside, but their conversation stayed quiet. Do you still believe I'm your father? David asked. The boy didn't answer at first. Then softly, you don't look like the man in the memory cube, but you feel like him. David smiled. I don't know who I was, but I know what I want to be now. What's that? A shield. The ring on David's finger pulsed again, glowed red. Hotter this time. A projection rose from the ground, a figure standing tall in black armor. It spoke directly to David. You are property of Joint Command. Biological class, hybrid soldier. You are recalled. David stood. I'm not yours anymore. You were never yours to begin with, the voice replied coldly. The projection disappeared. David turned to the boy. They're going to make me choose between Earth and your world. The boy looked afraid. And if you choose wrong? David took a long breath. Then both burned. Suddenly, a noise from outside, a low humming sound. Mechanical. Inhuman. David grabbed a scanner from the pod. 2 life forms approaching. Not human. He stood, moved to the cave entrance, and looked through a thermal lens. 2 figures walked through the snow. Not soldiers. Not hunters. Messengers. They wore robes, hoods covering their faces. But their feet left no footprints. David stepped forward. You're not here to fight. One of them spoke with a voice that echoed in his mind, not his ears. No. We are here to ask. Ask what? The second figure removed its hood. A female face. Alien, but peaceful. The Council of Unity requests your choice. I haven't made it yet, David replied. Then we will show you what each path looks like. Suddenly, the snow vanished. The cave disappeared. David stood in a place that wasn't real, but felt more real than anything he'd known. 2 doors stood before him. One said, Earth. The other, Elysia. The first door opened. David saw Earth burning. Cities falling. People running. Warships in the sky. He saw his own face on a screen, labeled traitor, alien. The second door opened. David saw the stars. Peace. But the boy, now a teen, wore armor, cold eyes, a weapon, trained to obey. He loses his soul here, David whispered. Or he loses his life on Earth, the messenger replied. David turned to them. You said I had a choice. These aren't choices. These are traps. That is the truth of power, the messenger said. And what if I say no to both? The messenger paused. Then you will stand alone. Against both. David returned to the cave. The boy sat silently, holding the cube. Where did you go? He asked. David didn't answer. He just picked up a piece of metal and began working, shaping it into a new badge. A mix of earth steel and Elysian crystal. We're not choosing their war, David finally said. Then what are we choosing? Our own rules. Suddenly a transmission came through the beacon. Lyra's voice. Weak, scared. David, don't trust the council. Don't trust Earth. They both want him. Only one wants him alive. They found me. I won't make it to you, but I'll send something. A map. A memory. Something they don't know I saved. The message ended. In static dot, David turned to the sky. In the stars above, the hunter ships were multiplying. Below, Earth's radar stations were lighting up with unidentified objects, and humans were preparing for the wrong war. David looked at his son. Do you know how to fight? No. Good, David said. Then you'll learn how to protect. And far away. In a dark control room, on Earth, a general stared at David's face on a screen. He's alive. Yes, sir, the officer said. We have his signal. Bring him in. Alive. Not necessary. The first time David bled, it wasn't red dot. Not exactly. It had shimmered, red at first, then gold. A nurse had wiped it away in a war tent and said nothing. But she had looked scared. Back then, David didn't understand why. Now, he did. In the quiet ruins of a crashed relay station. David sat with the memory cube in his hands. The boy was asleep beside him, curled in a blanket. Snow outside, silence. Inside, David touched the cube, and this time, it didn't show memories. It asked a question. Do you want to see what they made you? David hesitated, then nodded. The room around him faded. He was no longer in the ruins. He stood in a lab, sterile, cold, strapped to a table on the other side of the glass. Earth generals, alien diplomats, watching, taking notes. A man in a suit said, Prototype, D17 nickname, David. Strength, 9x average human. Lifespan, unknown. Mind, programmable. Emotion, asked someone. Not required. David stared at himself. Just a boy in that memory. 17, quiet. Empty. They hadn't trained him. They had built him. Then the scene shifted. A young Lyra appeared, sneaking him out of the compound. Her voice was whispering through the memory. You were made to fight. But you taught me how to feel. You're not their machine, David. You're ours now. David opened his eyes. Back in the ruins, the fire crackled softly. He wasn't angry. He wasn't afraid. He was free. The boy stood beside him. Bad dream? He asked. David shook his head. No. Finally, a true one. Do you know who you are now? David smiled faintly. I'm the reason they're all scared. Just then, a sharp buzz hit his ear. Not sound. Not physical. A signal. He looked at his hand. The ring was glowing red again, but this time, flickering rapidly. The boy sat up. Is that Mom? David focused. The signal was not from Lyra. It was from the core, a place deep beneath Earth's surface, a place even he hadn't remembered until now. He spoke softly. They hid it inside me. The real reason they want me back. What is it? The boy asked. David looked toward the mountain horizon. Something worse than war. The ring suddenly projected a map, a hidden underground base near the Arctic Circle. David stood up, his face calm now, focused. They thought if I ever remembered, I'd run, but I'm going straight to them. Why? Because I'm done being their weapon. It's time they learned what I really am. Far away, in a cold steel room deep underground, Earth's generals watched a screen. A scientist whispered. He activated the core signal. The general nodded. Good. That means he's coming to us. You really think he'll give himself up? He won't have a choice. The scientist paused. And the child? If we get the child, we won't need David anymore. Back in the ruins, David packed the last of the supplies. The boy stood beside him. You're not leaving me behind. Didn't plan to, David said with a smirk. What if it's a trap? It is. Then why go? David looked into the fire one last time. Because sometimes, you walk into the trap, not to escape it, but to burn it from the inside. As they stepped out into the snow, a voice whispered in the wind. Lyra's voice, one final message from the beacon. David, if you're hearing this, it means they know. About you, about him. Don't go to the core. Unless you're ready to destroy it. David looked at the boy. I'm ready. And they vanished into the snowstorm, heading toward the secret that built him. But deep inside the core, something was waking up. Something connected to David's DNA. A machine. A mind. A memory, and a voice. Cold. Robotic. Ancient. Protocol. Alpha rebooting. Hybrid Soldier D-17 identified. Control sequence. Preparing. Welcome home, David. The boy stood at his side, shivering from the cold, staring at the metal tower rising from the Arctic snow. Black. Silent. Alive. The core had no doors, no guards, no lights. But it opened for him. Because it remembered him. Because he built it. Before they erased who he was. Inside, everything pulsed with red light. Symbols glowed on the walls. A deep hum vibrated through their bones. The boy whispered, "This place feels wrong." David nodded. That's because it was made for control, not for freedom. As they stepped deeper into the core, a voice echoed. Mechanical. Familiar. David. Hybrid D-17. Identity confirmed. Welcome back. David didn't answer. The voice continued. Mission resumed. Authorized. Awaiting instruction from Central Earth Authority. Suddenly, holograms appeared. Earth generals. Alien leaders. All watching. You're in the heart of both worlds now, one of them said. You don't belong to either, said another. But both want what's inside your head. David stepped forward. You all made the same mistake. They leaned in, curious. You built me to follow. You trained me to kill. You erased my name, gave me a number, and hoped I'd never ask why. He turned and looked at the boy. But this is why. David slammed his hand onto the panel. The ring lit up, not red, but white. A surge of energy blasted out. The room changed. The walls cracked. The lights turned blue. The system was no longer in control. David was. Alarms screamed. Unauthorized override detected. Initiate shutdown. No, David said. The core began to shift. React. Fight back. Robotic drones dropped from the ceiling. David grabbed a fallen pipe. Fought like a man who remembered everything. One drone aimed at the boy. David leaped. Between took the hit, but didn't fall. His blood hit the floor. Still gold. Still burning. Still alive. The boy rushed to him. Dad. David smiled through the pain. They made me to destroy cities. But you made me want to protect them. He handed the boy the ring. You're not a weapon. You're the future. The boy held the ring. It pulsed once, then twice. The core lights dimmed. It recognized him. 2. Because he wasn't just David's son. He was the first. True hybrid, born free. The leaders on the hologram screens began to panic. End the link. Shut the core down. Now. But it was too late. The boy looked at the console, then at David. What do we do? David grinned. You decide now. The boy placed the ring into the central socket. I choose no. 1. And the core, the system meant to control them all, shut itself down. Screens across Earth went black. Weapons went silent. The hunter ships lost power, and for the first time in years, both worlds stood still. On Earth, the military stood confused. Sir, the system's offline. All of it. Even the hunter override. Yes, sir. Everything's gone dark. The general sat down, slowly. He chose not to take power. Looks like it. Then God help us, if he ever changes his mind. In orbit, an Elysian captain stood in silence. They didn't follow either side. They broke the board. A younger officer asked, what are they now? The captain looked out the window. Free. Back at the core, smoke rose from shattered walls. David limped outside with the boy beside him. The storm had cleared. A bright sun rose over the icy world. Soft, quiet, hopeful. The boy looked up. So, what now? David took a deep breath. Now, we go home. Which one? David looked at the sky, then back at the boy. Whichever one we'd build together. Cut to black. Text on screen. He was built to serve. He chose to protect. That's what made him dangerous. That's what made him human.